Esports mice are getting pretty fancy with the latest PixArt sensors, ultra-fast switches, and crazy light weights. But sometimes you see one of the marketing claims like sub 1 millisecond analog technology, and you just feel utterly confused. See, this is a USB mouse. Its maximum polling rate, or the speed at which it can update the computer, is 1000 Hz, aka one update every 1 millisecond. Now, the fact that the switch can actuate faster than 1 millisecond, supposedly anyway, and bear in mind that's not, your finger pressing down on it, that's once your finger has actually clicked the switch, how long it takes for the current to flow through the switch and then into the controller, where the controller can then tell the computer you've pressed the switch. So the fact that it can do that in less than 1 millisecond, but it can't update the computer faster than 1 millisecond, generally means that it seems a little pointless. Now, you could make the argument that having a switch that actuates faster than 1 millisecond means that you're more likely to have your key press register a tick earlier than a standard 1 millisecond switch. Now, while that is technically speaking the case, generally speaking, it's not that big a deal, and even reviewers much more esteemed than I, in terms of mouse reviews anyway, say that there really isn't much of a difference here. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way, let's take a look at what else the mouse has to offer and makes it actually a pretty decent mouse. The first thing is the sensor. It's a PixArt PMW3389, one of PixArt's best and latest sensors, and is actually pretty impressive, tracks incredibly well in games, actually has an adjustable liftoff distance as well in their rather sparse software that is actually a bit hard to find. You have either a 2mm default liftoff distance, or if you prefer to lift it off a bit further, then you can set it to 3mm, and that's about it. In games, this thing flies. In stuff like CSGO, where flick shots are king, this thing is incredibly good at those, even if I'm not. And actually, one of the things that will help you with that is it's just 70 gram weight. That's incredibly light for a gaming mouse, and while there are a few that are actually a few grams lighter and actually a few pounds less in terms of pricing, it's still an incredibly light mouse. Genuinely feels like there's nothing inside it, which is a pretty impressive feat. Shape-wise, it's actually a pretty flat mouse. You can grip it however you want, so you can claw grip it if you fancy, but depending on your hand size, you'll probably want to palm or sort of fingertip grip it, so it kind of depends on what you fancy. It actually has a decent amount of space on the sides though, which is good for being able to grip the mouse well, obviously for flicking it around and for lifting it off too, which is something that I can't say for every mouse I've tested. You do actually have two buttons on the side like we've come to expect with most mice, but I wouldn't rely on them too heavily, as in my testing and actually while I was filming, I was able to effectively break the front button. I really wasn't pressing all that hard on it, but they're so kind of minimally reinforced inside, likely due to weight saving, that I was able to lock that front button in, and I had to shove my fingernail in there to click it back out again. Now, it does still work, which means that if this were to happen to you, it shouldn't be, a fatal flaw in the mouse, but, if you're in game and you've bound that to a certain button, you don't want that button to then be locked in by accident kind of thing, so do bear that in mind. And finally, you've got a single button on the bottom of the mouse, along with the PTFE white pads for a nice easy gliding, and the button, well, the sticker next to it says that it's for adjusting the polling rate. It actually adjusts the CPI profiles, which again, you can adjust what they are set to in their rather sparse software. I had it set to 800 DPI personally, but of course you can set it to basically whatever you like. So overall, it's a decent mouse. Its sub 1 millisecond analog technology claim is a bit much, but it tracks well and it games well, and it gets a pretty good recommendation from me. In terms of pricing, it's selling for £54 on OverclockersUK, who are the ones who sent me the mouse to do this video on, and similar prices around the rest of the world, which is about, I think, £9 or £10 more than the Glorious Model O, which is a pretty similar competitor, although a couple of grams lighter and obviously a bit cheaper as well, so do bear that in mind. I haven't tested a Glorious Model O myself, so if you want to see a review and therefore a bit of a comparison between these two, do let me know in those comments down below. To answer the question of would I put this on my desk, personally, I would say no. I'm not a pro esports player, I don't play CSGO a load, so for me this isn't really, my thing, but I would highly recommend it to anyone who is looking for a sort of pro esports mouse and wants one of the better mice on the market, especially in terms of weight and of course a great sensor too. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below though. What do you think of the mouse? Is this something you'd be interested in picking up yourself? Is there something better? Would you prefer the glorious Model O or something from Logitech or anything in between? Do let me know in those comments down below. Now of course, if you want to pick one of these up or check out pricing, I've left a link to OverclockersUK in the description down below. If you want to see more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, then make sure you hit that subscribe button with the bell notification icon to be notified of those new videos. You can also check out the rest of the links in the description down below if you want to support the channel. There's Amazon and OverclockersUK affiliate links, which don't cost you anything to use but massively help me out when you do use them. There's also stuff like merch if you want hoodies or t-shirts like this one. There's also a Patreon if you want to get cool rewards and support me directly. Or there's also stuff like private internet access, which is a great and cheap VPN, or Humble Bundle for cheap games to support charities too. There's also some more videos over there if you want to check them out and keep watching, and you can check out a load of other videos on the channel, including mice reviews if you fancy as well. Otherwise, if you have any questions, leave those in the comments down below, and I'll see you all in the next video.